All right, let me get going. I'll just share my screen and I'm going to be, I do have slides, but I'm planning on trying to do this live for the most part because what could possibly go wrong? So we're going to talk about, we're going to introduce the browser page inspector today and the customizer CSS editor. I think, how do I want to start? Maybe just start with a quick rundown of how web pages work. And this is really geared toward maybe not, this talk is going to be geared toward people who are not absolute beginners, but real close to it probably. So it's just FYI. So when you request a web page from, say, we're going to go to Amazon, and I'm going to use Amazon today to just to prove a point. You make a request, they'll run some scripts on the server side, and then they send your own copy of the HTML and CSS and the various other acronyms that go to build up the web page. So the point there is that you are getting your own local copy of that website. So so I'm going to tell you in a second how I did this, but I'm just going to pull up the page inspector really quickly. And you'll see that I have all this HTML code on the right-hand side, and that is my local copy of the code. So if I wanted to, I'm going to go in and just do something really quickly, and hopefully I can make this happen. I'm going to select something. I'm going to look at the background, and I'm going to go through. Here we go. So I'm looking to select one of these elements here in the header. And I see that there's a background color set here. And just for fun, I'm going to change this to pink. And oops, pink. I'm going to change it to pink. There we go. So so for those of you, sometimes people are worried. They're like, oh, I don't want to break my website doing this. And you're not going to break your website. This is something that is ephemeral. It just lives locally. I promise you, I did not just change Amazon for the rest of the world. All right, so I'm going to go back and kind of explain what we did there. So let's see, and I'm working in Chrome just to make things easier. It's the browser that I like to work in. All modern browsers have some similar functionality, have some kind of developer tools. And most of those developer tools are very extensive. You can do a lot of powerful things, and I'm not nearly going to go into all of it. But I think the thing that's really useful here, if you're a beginner, if you know a little bit about HTML, a little bit about CSS, then you can go quite a long ways to fixing issues or tweaking your website. So in order to get to that inspector, there are a few different routes, and sometimes there are different names for it too, but they're all called developer tools or inspector usually. So you can just go to view. Where am I here? I don't know if you can see all the way up there, but I'm going to go to view, developer, and then developer tools or inspect elements. The developer tools will just bring up that sidebar thing, or it may show up on the bottom. And if you use the inspector, that's where we're actually going to select an element on the screen. All right. So what are we saying here? Let me move on to my slide and make sure I'm not forgetting things. I think the important thing to recognize here is that as you're going through, maybe you have a bug or something that you want to change. This really gives you a lot of visibility into how the page is actually structured. And it allows you to go and select specific elements and then go back and edit those elements later. And then of course you see the CSS style being applied. So so that's pretty useful too. If I go back to my header, and I'm just totally making this up on the fly. So so you can see that I don't know if you can tell on the screen here, but as I hover over things, if I have the inspector turned on, then you can see that I can select elements. And let's say that I want to understand more about how that nav bar at the top is styled. So so if I look under the styles tab, then I'm going to see all of the different CSS that is being applied. However, the way CSS works, not all of those rules are applied. Some rules override other rules. So I can click on the computed tab, and that will tell me which rules are actually winning and which ones are actually being applied to this element that's selected. All right, so for example, I was curious about the background color. Looks like I picked a different one. See if I can pick the right one. There we go. So we know that I just changed this to pink. And if I wanted to know, this will show me the other possible rules that are also trying to be applied. And it just turns out that my pink one won the war, and it's the one that's being applied here. It can be, when you're looking at this styles tab and trying to scroll through all these different styles to figure out which ones are being applied, it can be really hard. So they have this nice tool here where if I hover over the style that's being applied here, I'll get this arrow. And if I click on the arrow, it'll forward me right to the actual rule that's applied. And this can be really helpful because I may want to know what that selector looks like. And I may want to know what all the different selectors are that might possibly be applied in that rule. And we'll get to that here in the next leg of our talk. So let's see, what else do I want to talk about? Let's see what all I missed here. Oh yeah, so we can also edit the HTML on the fly. So let's say, I don't know what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to right click on this element that I'm on, and I'm going to say edit as HTML. So, I don't know, maybe I want to add an element. I just want to see what it looks like if I add an element here. Hello world, and close tag. So here I've just added this h1 tag, this header element, and I'm going to use Command Enter. And so you can see this thing was just added into the HTML here. And again, obviously, this doesn't apply to the rest of the universe. This is just on this one iteration of this web page on my computer. But it gives me a chance to mock things up really easily and to just get a sense of what they might look like if I make a certain change. So how do can you like save it? Can you get rid of it? To be honest, I don't think you can save it. You can copy and paste it. So I can copy an element and all of its child elements will show up, will be included. So I can like save that to a document if I want to, and paste it in there. This is all the stuff that was inside of that element that I just grabbed. So that way you can save it. You can also, so I guess that's probably about it on that topic. So what if I want to get rid of it and start over? I've gotten so deep into this, I don't know what I'm doing anymore. You just refresh the page. So I'm going to hit refresh, and we're going to get a new copy of this page. It's just pulling a new version of it down from the server. And it's easy as that. It's also an easy way to lose all the changes. So so if you've been doing a whole bunch, don't do a whole bunch of work and then expect it to stick around, because these are ephemeral. These are short-lived changes. All right, so let me go. What else? I guess it's probably worth noting too, the console. So as part of the developer tools, there's also a whole branch of it that's involved with JavaScript. And I don't want to get, I think that's getting too deep into the woods, but it is a really good troubleshooting tool. If you see this red X up here, that means there are JavaScript errors being thrown. Sometimes JavaScript errors are a normal part of a website's functioning. Sometimes it's not. But if you're troubleshooting, if something all of a sudden breaks, and especially if it's something that uses JavaScript, like a slider or some kind of popover or something funky, and it all of a sudden stops working, you might just pop this open and look for those JavaScript errors, because they can be a strong indicator. Maybe that JavaScript broke in another part of the site, and that broke JavaScript for the whole site. So it may not tell you what to fix or how to fix it, but I should say it will tell you what to fix, but it may not tell you how to fix it. So it's a good place to start, though. So, all right, let me go check my slides here, see how we're doing. Yeah, I think I pretty well covered most of these things. I'll cover some more of this in the second part of this talk. So I'll probably pause here on this slide for you. I've been using Chrome developer tools, but of course, and I'm using a Mac in case you hadn't noticed. But if you want to check out the tools for other browsers, they all have their own unique tools and ways to get there. But I'll pause on the screen if you want to screen grab it, and I'll make sure to make these slides available elsewhere. So let's talk about the CSS, the Customizer CSS editor. So let me just introduce it really quickly. If you're not familiar, the WordPress has this wonderful set of tools called the Customizer. And buried in there is the additional CSS customizer. And that lets you actually just add styling code to your website. So let's jump over there. I have this demo site that I created ages ago. And Leslie Newman, my fabulous co-host, was kind enough to add a blog article here. And in case you actually look at some of the text on here and are wondering what the heck is going on, we actually used a Buffy the Vampire Slayer Ipsum text. So it's just random words and phrases from the movie or from the series. So it's just a kind of a nonsense blog article here with nonsense text. And let's say that I want to make some changes here. All right, so we have this like non-serifed header here for the page, or title for the page. And let's say that I want to keep the serifed fonts for the body, but I really want to change these headlines, these headings to non-serifed fonts. So how would we do that? Let's start by going over to the customizer, and we'll click on, I'm going to open it in a new tab and say customize. And let's see. So because I went this way and I used that customizer, or that customized link right from this web page. By the way, I'm logged in as an administrator here, so that's why we see the administrator bar up here at the top. So it's going to go ahead and open up that page directly in the customizer. And this theme happens to give us some handy little links so that we can edit some other elements here, but we're not going to focus on those today. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this additional CSS link over here. You can also reach this point just by going to the dashboard, logging into the back end, and I'll X out of this so we can, let's go to the dashboard really quickly because that's pretty useful. If we go to appearance and customize, then that's another way to get there, or you can also see appearance, edit CSS, I believe is another way to get there. That'll open up our CSS editor. You notice it opens up on our web page, on our home page in this case. So I can still click on I can click on links and kind of navigate around within this CSS editor. So back to the original question, I want to change this headline to a non-serif font. So I went ahead and opened up the developer tools again, and let's go ahead, and first thing I want to do is I want to see what font is being used for this one over here. So I don't think you can tell up here. I did actually select it. So we're selected the H1 element here. And we're going to go to computed just to see what the font family is. Font family is Montserrat. And as backups, I have Helvetica News. So I'm going to use the arrow to go to that item. And I'm just going to copy the same rule that's being used there. And then I'm going to go down to the headline that I want to change, which is apparently another H1 tag. And let's see, we're going to see what's going on with that. The font family being used there is Merriweather. And so we want to change that. I'm going to go to the rule being applied. And it's the rule that's applied to the whole body, it looks like. So that's fine. I have to try to remember what I'm doing here. I think, let me take a look at one of these others and see. All right, I don't know. We're just gonna cheat. And let's say that I want to change all of the H tags. So I'm going to go H1 through H6, and I'm just going to try writing a rule here. H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. And I'm going to do font family, and we're going to add that Montserrat that I just stole from the page title. And you can see that it applies that in real time. So that's super helpful. And now I can stop there if I probably get us maybe stop there for a minute. And so you can see that we've use this. If I want to save it, if I publish it, or click that blue publish button, then it goes live. And then when I go to the front end, we should see, if I refresh, then we should see that, yes, that headline font did change there. So what else? That's pretty good. I think we could probably recoup a little bit of time, and I can cut things a little bit short. Probably worth noting here that we can change the screen size by using this too, and so we can see what this looks like on different screen sizes. But how are we doing on time there? Do we want to cut it off there and
go about 4 minutes, 4.5 minutes?
All right. Yep, I was timing. I am timing myself, but if we want to get on, I just want to make sure we're on schedule for everybody else. And
if you feel complete, Patrick, there's we will run 10 minutes over if nobody cuts any time off of their 20 minutes. So it's your choice.
Well, I think, yeah, I feel like I've gone through the material and I can talk for days. If you want me to keep going, I can keep going, but
I think it's great to stop and leave room for some questions during your breakout. That would be awesome. This was a very helpful presentation. Thank you.